This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. Passengers have described a mid-air emergency which saw a Jetstar flight turn back to Melbourne as it was travelling to Launceston. Those on board say there were strange smells in the cabin while 2 crew members were taken to hospital.
Worried passengers were met by flashing lights as they touched down at Melbourne Airport. Police, fire trucks and ambulances surrounded Jetstar Flight 739, which had been en route to Launceston late yesterday afternoon. 2 crew members were taken to hospital.
Sort of smelled like diesel to me. When it landed, it got really strong then.
The crew members were later cleared, but Richard Axton says no effort was made to see if passengers were okay.
When we walked in off the airport, they didn't check if any other passengers was, they could have been ill as well. They sort of just put us in the door and tell us when the next flight was. That's about it.
It only got worse. A replacement plane was declared unfit to fly, leaving travellers stranded in the airport until a 3rd plane finally took everyone home.
They didn't apologise, they didn't anything. We didn't even get a complimentary drink or a snack or anything waiting 5 hours, like over dinner time.
One lady from Larina was due to be picked up by her neighbour, who had made the 2-hour drive into Launceston.
If the person who was due to collect me either didn't wait or didn't get proper communication and wasn't there, I would have absolutely no option but to sleep in the Launceston terminal. We were cheap travellers and treated that way.
She says the only compensation she received was an $8 food voucher to use in the airport. A Jetstar spokesperson says the captain returned to Melbourne after the smell was detected by cabin crew to conduct further checks, and that engineers found no issues with the aircraft but replaced the air filters on board as a precaution. The plane had nearly crossed Bass Strait when it turned back.
I've always travelled with Jetstar and I was very unhappy with how they handled it.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Investigations are underway tonight over a woman's claim she found a needle in strawberries bought from a Rosny supermarket. There are questions over exactly how the needle made its way into the punnet, with Southern Cross confirming the farm involved uses a metal detector before it sends its products to Tasmania.
This is the Facebook post sparking a major public health response across Tasmania. A shopper writing online yesterday afternoon that she bought a packet of strawberries from here at Woolworths Rosny Park and one had a needle inside it. Despite speculation online that it could be a hoax, police are treating it seriously, with a forensic examination now a priority.
Be looking to examine the packaging and the article that was used to contaminate it.
It is still yet to be determined just how the needle came into the strawberry, but the woman claimed the strawberries were from Queensland-based company Pinata. But that company says it uses a metal detector on all its products before it's approved for sale, recently creating this video to demonstrate. Questions now raised about how the strawberry came to be contaminated, with the likely possibilities it was tampered with in transit or happened here in Tasmania. The incident follows numerous reports of other contaminated strawberries found in other parts of Australia. The act's drawing widespread condemnation, with calls for harsh punishments for those responsible.
The low-life scum who think it's somehow funny to put needles in strawberries, I think, should be chucked into jail as soon as they're identified.
It's an irresponsible act. It causes unnecessary alarm and concern in the community. It affects a whole cohort of people, including the industry at large.
Woolworths says it takes food safety incredibly seriously and it is working closely with authorities to ensure its customers are protected. All Tasmanians reminded to remain vigilant.
Regardless of the brand, if you eat fresh strawberries, it's really important to cut them up into small pieces before you consume them.
If a malicious strawberry is found, contact Crime Stoppers. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
2 patients seeking treatment for their mental health at the Royal Hobart Hospital say they were forced to sleep on the floor as they waited for a bed for several days. Senior hospital management taking the rare step of publicly apologising this afternoon, conceding the situation was unacceptable and demands change.
A desperate cry for help from two patients seeking treatment for mental health issues.
Help me. Get me the help I need. I'm asking for the help. I need it.
The man, who did not wish to be named, says he spent last night sleeping on the floor of the Royal Hobart Hospital Emergency Department. He said he checked himself in on Friday, left waiting all weekend. Today, speaking out.
I feel worse now than what I did when I came in here to get help on Friday. I don't feel any better at all. I feel worse.
He says he was not alone. Other patients waiting with him, using towels and blankets for makeshift bedding.
It makes me feel like they don't care, like that the only way to get anything done is to go do something silly. Like, I came in here so that nothing does happen to me because I'm so scared. I can't help myself.
Today, the hospital's top clinician said this was unacceptable, apologising to the patients and promising to do better.
What we do each and every day is we provide our patients the best care we possibly can, and we fell short in that over the short period last night. We're reviewing that to ensure we do better next time.
The government says it has already opened beds and there are more to come.
We are very concerned about that. That's why, of course, we're investing some $95 million in opening 25 mental health beds in southern Tasmania.
This is something the government needs to address urgently, given the number of people who are now coming forward and sharing their stories, and these are very heart-wrenching stories and very hard stories to share.
Let me please reassure the community, anybody that needs urgent treatment, we are open and we are treating you.
As staff struggle to cope with the patient demand, the hospital union is launching industrial action, rejecting the government's 2% wage offer for health staff.
It's our members who are having to cope with those stresses, and our members that are copying an insult 2% wage increase or offer from this government.
But they say this is only the beginning. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
Meanwhile, construction workers at the Royal Hobart Hospital will finally get paid today after the union says more than 100 foreign plasterers were owed $1.5 million in unpaid wages and entitlements. Many workers say they were not paid for up to 2 months. The plastering subcontractor allegedly responsible had its agreement terminated last week, and the Q3 construction company was today named as the new subcontractor, having reached an agreement with employees. A milestone flight has just touched down in Tasmania, the first regular scheduled passenger service between Perth and Hobart. This was the site of its arrival around an hour ago. The Virgin plane touched down to a special welcome in Hobart. In what may be a good omen for the service, it arrived an hour ahead of schedule thanks to some strong westerly winds. Airport and tourism authorities say it's a major step for the airport as it continues to pursue the possibility of international flights.
On the other side of our country, passengers boarded a special service at Perth Airport, the first landmark flight to Hobart.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to be able to operate the inaugural flight today to Hobart, to be able to connect Perth directly to Hobart, which I think is an exciting tourist destination and an up-and-coming city.
Taking to the skies, it's typically a 4-hour flight, now Tasmania's longest regular scheduled service.
The direct service is really important. This is off the back of Adelaide direct services last year. Gold Coast direct services will also commence again this year, and now Perth.
Initially planned for 3 return services a week, demand has seen Virgin put on 2 extra weekly returns in December and January. These direct services opening up another market for Tasmania's tourism, cutting down transit time through Melbourne.
Previously, if you're sitting in WA, Tasmania looks a long way when you've got to do the leap down via Melbourne to get down here, whereas now the direct service for the first time, I'm sure it'll see a really significant uptake in Western Australians making the trip.
With capacity issues at Hobart Airport during busy periods, it's now set to revamp the apron. Under plans, aircraft would park straight on instead of at an angle, and when departing would be towed back by a tug. This change freeing up much needed parking, expanding from 5 bays to 7.
We are looking at moving into power in and push back, which will provide an additional 40% aircraft parking capacity.
creating space for the next frontier at Hobart Airport, direct international services. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Westpac rescue helicopter crews say they're expecting to get busier as the weather heats up. Following new figures, emissions increased by 29% last summer. The data sparking a warning to tourists and locals to be prepared when they go bushwalking.
Just remember that the weather in Tasmania changes very quickly, so whilst it might be sunny and hot today, tomorrow you might get snowed on. So if you're going to go on a multi-day walk, let people know where you're going, go prepared, take all the proper equipment and take an EPIRB.
Westpac has now extended its financial support of the service an extra 5 years. Tasmanian Defence recruit hopefuls are spending the week getting hands-on experience. They're hearing about the many and varied roles in Defence, and today it was the Royal Australian Air Force's turn to show off.
Taking to the skies in front of eager-eyed students, the roulette's an impressive sight for these Defence Force hopefuls.
So the roulettes are introducing the participants in aircraft operations and cockpit design, and giving them a bit of a taste of what it might be to be employed as aviation specialists or aircrew in the Royal Australian Air Force.
A select group of young Tasmanians exploring career options in the Defence Force over this week, getting a first-hand experience of the varied jobs on offer.
To get a plane off the ground, there's a lot of support personnel required. You need your maintainers, your administration, your ops personnel, so it's not just the pilots at the front. There's a lot of support behind us, and we really appreciate it.
Students taking to the virtual skies today. Shayla is in Year 10 at Devonport's Reese High School. She's eyeing a career in the Army.
So I want to go into medical science and into the Army, and this just gives me a good background on what I will be doing.
Over the next few days, they'll be shown the different sections of the Defence Force, the Navy and the Army branches.
Tasmania has always been a happy hunting ground for the Australian Defence Force in developing recruits. We don't have a massive defence presence down here, but it's important that we, on these sort of opportunities, we engage with them, the youth.
And with sites like this over Tasmania yesterday, there might be a few more young Tasmanians considering joining up. The roulettes taking part in Battle of Britain commemorations.
Yeah, so it's pretty rare that we get to fly over a major capital city right out the front. The guys had a pretty tough time with the wind over Mount Wellington. You could see them, they were working very hard, but they still put on a great show, and it was great to be down here.
Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
3 Tasmanian venues have been recognised as some of the best in the country at the Australian Hotels Association's National Awards for Excellence. Hobart's MacQ1 Hotel taking out Best Superior Accommodation, Devonport's Formby Hotel claimed Best Regional Bistro, while Frogmore Creek walked away with the title of Best Regional Restaurant. It's the second year in a row a Tasmanian restaurant has been named the best in regional Australia. The hospitality industry is the state's 3rd largest sector. An innovation allowing those living in a wheelchair to take to the green is now available in Tasmania. The Paragolfer helps players to stand up, and it's hoped the technology will be available across the state.
Richard Jones's love for golf began when he picked up his first club at the age of 5. But when tragedy struck 3 years ago, he was left wheelchair-bound, affecting his ability to play.
A tree branch fell on me when I was falling wood in 2015.
Now an innovation is levelling the playing field.
The Paragolfer is basically a stand-up wheelchair built specifically for golf.
Essentially, it's just allowing people of all abilities to play golf, whether they be wheelchair users, amputees, intellectual disabilities.
This Paragolfer is the first to be available to the public in Tasmania, and it's being described as a game changer.
The simple fact of being able to stand up, that most people take for granted, is something that is, can be very emotional for people.
To have the chair and get back onto the golf course has made the biggest difference in my life.
But with a hefty price tag of $40,000 for Richard, purchasing his own came with sacrifices.
Well, I sold my block of land, so that was a big sacrifice. That was my dream. I was going to build a home to retire there.
It's hoped the technology will soon be available across the state.
We are hoping to have them in the northwest and the north as we roll them out, but we want to get this one up and running successfully first.
Richard is now preparing to compete at the International Wheelchair Golf Open Championship in Spain in November. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
Well, he has the TSL Premiership medal around his neck, but Beau Sharman will spend the early part of next season watching from the stands. The North Launceston player has been hit with a 4-match ban for striking Lauderdale's Bryce Walsh in the head. The match review panel applied a 25% grand final loading to the incident. Sharman can reduce the penalty to 3 matches with an early guilty plea. And St Virgil's has won this year's Tassie Cup, contested between the best school teams from across the state. Patrick Walker's goal capped off the 65 points to 6 win over Riverside High at UTAS Stadium. Angus Norton and Alex Wiggins kicked 2 goals each. A Tasmanian has claimed another medal at the biggest event on rowing's calendar. The Tamar Rowing Club's Siona Wilson was part of the crew which brought home Australia's first women's 8 medal since 2006. Bereft of success in the women's 8 for more than a decade, Siona Wilson and the Aussie crew were ready to reset the record. A blistering start saw Team Australia leading at the 500 metre mark before the US passed the green and gold at halfway. Then the Canadians decided to challenge. In a heart-stopping finish, the Aussies missed silver by only 1/8 of a second. But Siona Wilson was still part of a drought-breaking crew, the first Aussies to medal in the event in 12 years. Alex Peroni made his way from 12th on the grid to 9th in race 2 of the Formula Renault at the Nürburgring. One driver ended up on pit lane's wall. The Tasmanian avoided any danger during the race, passing Lorenzo Colombo on the inside to steal 9th spot. Peroni is 8th on the standings with 4 races to go. Richie Port has made it to the end of the 20-stage Tour of Spain. He finished well down the order in 84th after battling illness. And Launceston basketballer Chris Golding returns to the court tonight for the Boomers after being suspended by FIBA following a brawl in the Philippines. The Boomers are taking on Kazakhstan in Bendigo in a World Cup qualifier.
Good evening. Temperatures range from -3 on Mount Wellington overnight to Bushy Park's 18 degrees today, Hobart 17, Launceston and Devonport 13, Burnie a high of 14 degrees. A few showers were experienced over the west and north as cloud gathered ahead of a cold front. Campania and Friendly Beach is 17 degrees, Grove and Ouse 16, King Island and St Helens 15, Flinders Island 14, Low Head and Strawn 13 degrees. Low level cloud over the state today, heavier over the west and north, a little high cloud moving in from the west as well. A definite cloud band linked to a weakening cold front is approaching Tasmania. Some low cloud over southwest WA. The rest of the country finding mostly clear skies. Tomorrow, a broad low pressure trough lies through the centre of Australia, linking with the front near our west coast. High pressure zones to the east and west of the continent. The winds north to northwesterly at 20 to 30 knots, shifting west northwesterly during the afternoon and evening. Swells to 5 metres in western waters. Strong wind warning is current for all coastal waters. A small craft wind alert for the lakes. Tuesday in Hobart, a shower or two developing later, 19 the top, 17 the high for Adventure Bay with a shower, showers for Tarraleah, 13 the maximum. Launceston, showers increasing, 17 the top, 16 the high for Devonport, a windy day as well, windy for Bridport too with a shower, 16. Burnie, showery and windy, 16, 15 the high for Strawn and Marrawar with those conditions similar in the west. In the east, a late shower for St Helens, 17, mainly sunny for Swansea and 19, top of 18 for Whitemark on Flinders. On Wednesday, showers over the west and north extending statewide by midday before easing later, some snow on the highlands, mostly fine on Thursday apart from showers over the west and far south, the chance of a morning frost, and a shower on Friday over the west and in the morning over the northeast, otherwise fine. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow, showers developing for Adelaide and Melbourne, a light frost ahead of a sunny afternoon for Canberra, nice and warm for Sydney and Canberra, nice and warmer for Cairns and Darwin. Not that warm here, a little bit cloudy, 13 degrees in Hobart, 11 right now in Launceston, Devonport 12. Joe, our changeable weather continues in the early part of spring, more changeable than your mood.
I'm as even-tempered as they come. That's all from the team for now. Thanks for your company. We'll see you a little later. Bye-bye.